Alrighty, welcome back to Shock and Schlock. I'm your host, Herschel Gillis, and today I'm going to be talking about a new documentary film that I was sent the screener of by Mr. Jonathan Doe of Putrid Productions, Cinema's Underbelly, the Uneasy Terrain Explorers Club, Memorabilia Show and Tell. You know, I've interviewed him. I've talked about his films. And here's the new one. The documentary The Art of Self-Harm, released this year, talking about the performance art collective White Gardenia, which is composed of Cherokee Nevin, Allison Belmont, and leader, sort of, at least the one in his words, like the person that brought everybody together. I know he doesn't think of himself as the leader really, but Daniel Valiant. And the film is pretty comprehensive, talks about the group's previous projects, as well as filming a new segment for the documentary. Through interviews, we get to see sort of their thought process behind the creation of their projects, what inspires them to do it, what other people's reactions have been, providing sort of background and, like a history of the group as well. This is done through interviews, flashbacks at previous projects, and the like. So, yeah, this is a unique a unique review for me, at least, because My Gardenia is a group that I have done a review for in the past, which was Torture Theater. And I've spoken with Daniel a couple of times, and my good friend is putting out a new project by White Gardenia. And yeah, so this is a unique movie for me, at least as well, to review, because I have more of a background going into this, and I learned things that I didn't know, which is always the goal of a documentary. So first off, that's good. Yeah. Things that I liked about the documentary. It is touted as like the most extreme or disturbing documentary ever made. So the question remains, is that true? An answer is probably. This is a film that is certainly not going to be for everybody. Even just the title, if you don't know anything about White Gardenia, you know it's going to be something. Just because of the title. So if you don't know, White Gardenia is a multimedia performance art group. They've done music, and they are primarily known for their performance art, which revolves a lot around self-harm and self-mutilation, with various other themes thrown in. But the art is always very abrasive, I would say. It's certainly not for everybody. I talked about in Torture Theater, a big, stir, the biggest, splash that I've seen White Gardenia make, or infamy, how a lot of people knew about them now, is through Daniel Valiant's segment in Torture Theater, where he takes a cleaver, cuts his pinky off, it is fried in a pan, and him and Allison Belmont eat pieces of it. And there's also a segment in Torture Theater, not to be forgotten at all. Cherokee Nevin removes I don't know what I can say on YouTube, but takes scissors to remove pieces of her genitalia and consumes them. And these are all real. So yeah, if you know anything about White Gardenia, that's, who we're covering. Now, what I think is best about this documentary is we get to hear about the thought process and everything directly from the people that make these. And I think even if you're obviously not a fan of White Gardenia, or if you're a fan, either one, I think you can still get something out of this, because if you think they are making really great art, then you will enjoy hearing the sort of background on this. And I think all three of these people in the film are very interesting to talk to. I think the interviews in this are really good. They're very enlightening. As someone that has consumed quite a bit of White Gardenia's content over time, it's interesting to hear. They are definitely like a blind spot or a more mysterious group, I would say, to a lot of people. If you're just watching their performances and not knowing anything about them. But this provides that sort of background through like just sitting down and talking with them, and I really enjoyed that aspect of this. Um, and I think that applies to people like if you're not a fan, you can hear like a normal like casual and intellectual conversations about the art that they make. And I just found that really interesting. I also appreciated that this film, while being extreme, because I mean we do see clips from previous White Gardenia stuff, and we see a new one, which I'll get into later. Um, I appreciate that there's a bit of levity in this. Like parts of this feel like hanging out in a good way, and I think all three members of White Gardenia are, you know, I haven't spoken to all of them, but seem like likable people, and or at least interesting. It's hard to grasp stuff from a documentary. I'm just saying, like, it's entertaining to watch them talk, and there are some funny moments which I appreciated as well. That's what I'm getting at. I also like the parts of this film that focus on like the group's perspective on death, because obviously that's a theme that's explored quite a bit in their film and performance art. And we get stuff like away from their art that they make, where we get to hear their perspective on death and other things. Like we go to an area where Allison goes to meditate, and she talks about her thoughts on that and everything, which I found really enlightening and interesting. And I think this is like a film that some people are going to be able to connect to in a weird way, through that, like meditative aspects of everything. I think that's a strong point of the film for me, at least, as well. Other things, the infamous Pinky returns, and there's going to be slight spoilers in this. I'm not going to give away major parts, but there's a part where Jonathan preserves it like as a wet specimen, and weirdly enough, I found that really interesting too. Just like number one, how to make a wet specimen, all this, like the process that goes into it, and the discussion of like, he gets a finger directly from the person who's it's coming from. It was just interesting there to watch as well. Yeah, I like the like outside framing shots away from the interviews. I think the film looks pretty good in that respect as well. And yeah, there is a new segment for this film, that I won't spoil like the whole context of, but it does involve genital mutilation once again with nails. And oh lord, it is certainly a aspect of the film that will certainly make people cringe if you're like me. It's very difficult to watch. Not quite as much as in Torture Theater, though that scene is shown in this as well. So you definitely get the like most extreme aspects of White Gardenia's stuff in this film. But this new scene is up there for sure. Yeah, and it's funny to like hear people almost sort of joking around like after everything's set up too. I thought that was interesting. Like it just humanizes everybody, and yeah, enjoyed that as well. But it's definitely going to be a scene that's going to turn some people off, which I think is a good thing. Honestly, like it's very interface and punchy and memorable, which I feel like is what White Gardenia has going for it a lot of the time. So I enjoyed that as well. Or enjoyed. I also want to say, this is the second documentary film that I have seen where someone gets a nail to their genitals. And it's weird that that's happened twice. The other one, of course, is Sick, The Life and Death of Bob Flanagan, Super Masochist. which I also highly recommend. But yeah, if I were to say I had an issue with the film, it would really just be that the film feels a little long at times. It's over 2 hours, um, and while I do, like the main aspects of the film with the new segment and the interviews and the background and everything there, I do think it could be cut just slightly, maybe. Um, but yeah, that's a very minor complaint. I do think this is a really good documentary. Everybody should definitely check out when it comes out. The pre-order's up now. I definitely recommend it, even if you're not like a White Gardenia fan, or if you're somebody that's um, like not been introduced to them. Still give it a go. Check it out. It's worth watching for sure. And Jonathan, thank you for sending me the review screener for this. I appreciate it. And as always, I never let that affect my review. I'm always going to do an honest review. So when I say it's good, it's good. So yeah, check it out. But that's it for today. It's your thoughts, zero editing, zero brain cells, and zero planning. I'll see you guys later. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't. Keep your notifications on. And as always, thanks for watching. See you guys.